Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Don Lemon Show, Lemon Live at 5. We're coming to you live at 5 o'clock Eastern every day on the East Coast here in New York. I have some shocking news for you. Democrats today did something good. Non-MAGA media actually beat back Trump today, and they won. Democrats and non-MAGA media actually enjoyed a win. They saved Medicaid and the 72 million poor Americans who rely on Medicaid. This is huge. We're going to get into all of it. But for once, you got to be happy that the Democrats, the only party that is trying to save democracy right now, actually grew a spine for once. We had the perfect person to discuss with us, and that is Rachel Bitecofer, a national political analyst for The Cycle on Substack, author of Hit 'Em Where It Hurts, and the co-host of This Is America podcast, the most recent episode of which digs into shock and awe elements of this second Trump presidency. That is, by the way, which we'll get to at the name of her new podcast as well. Rachel, how are you, my friend? And quickly, because I know we have a short time with you, what the hell happened today? Well, how did this is a Trump F up, no doubt about it. And Democrats saved Medicaid.
It is, but I mean, there's two elements, right? I mean, number one, the fact that they have the chutzpah to argue that they don't have to distribute federally approved and signed into law federal funding, right? I mean, this is a very outlandish, illegal, probably unconstitutional, effort. But what double makes it wild is they put this thing out about 4 o'clock yesterday to go into effect 24 hours later, and they announce it, a full federal freeze on spending, right? So what should worry you is that it didn't occur to them that it would cause problems, right? They never even thought it through. You could see all day that they were shocked that the government actually does stuff that people need, because in the memo itself, their Earth 2, mass fanaticism reasoning about woke gender ideologies, right? The government isn't like that. And it really is it's going to be a bomb on America tomorrow, even with the Medicaid victory that I think is important too.
I thought this time around that they had figured it out. Remember, the second Trump administration wouldn't send out, remember, the first one would send out things that were misspelled all the time. They would come to the podium and not be, in which we're going to talk about, not be prepared. That this time is going to be different. It looks like the cruelty is the point with this particular iteration of the Trump administration. But why is it that why are they doing this? Because what they're doing is really affecting their own constituents and their own voters more than anything. And the MAGA folks, the poor white people, the people who live in red states, they're going to be affected by more than the blue state folks and the non-MAGA people.
Yeah, truth is, the only thing that could have saved them was to revoke it, and they had about 35 minutes left to do it. I don't think they did it. I think it was 5 o'clock, right? Yeah. So no matter what, they grew this exceptions list organically today. People would call and complain. They'd add something on. It's missing much, and so tomorrow is going to be a day where average Americans notice something is wrong. And those days, exceedingly hard to produce. You have to really do something wild for tuned out America to bother to hear about it as news. This is the kind of stuff that could really topple their plans to take this next 3 months and really consolidate power, because it's going to shine. It's shining a giant spotlight on their illegality and really ill-conceived, terrible public policy outcomes.
What do you think, Rachel? Because we know this is illegal, but in this age of nothing matters, right? Democrats are out. They did win this time, but don't you think initially they were out saying that this is illegal, this is illegal? They should have been out saying, hey, Donald Trump killed Medicaid. The White House killed Medicaid. It killed social programs. The White House is, going against our own MAGA base. Shouldn't that be the messaging? Rather, it's illegal. Well, with Donald Trump, isn't pretty much everything deemed illegal, allegedly?
Democrats have absolutely no instinct for what the gut punch, emotional wrench in any given policy active action is. So you're right. They'll focus on illegality and not, hey, voters, they just stole your Medicaid, right? But Don, that problem is a lack. It comes from a lot of things that I cover and hit them where it hurts, but it's a lack of centralization. So when people look at the Democratic Party and wonder, is anyone in charge? What I will tell you after my 4 years of effort to replace the very smart consultants who lost 2024, we don't have a party leader. Okay, there's no leadership. There's no leadership organ, or organization. People think that is the DNC, but the DNC, the DCCC, the FCC, they're all segmented. They're all specific missions. They don't communicate, and that's what I'm hoping when we get through this new DNC chair election. The new chair calls me up and is serious about getting this infrastructure situation dealt with, because it's not just having shows. That's not going to do it. Okay, that's tactics. What we need to be talking about is grand strategy. And right now we don't have that capability at all.
Rachel, let me put this up. Okay, this is just in, brand new, as of 5 o'clock. It says federal judge temporarily blocks Trump administration freeze on federal grants and loans. That is the breaking news. Walk us through that. What does that mean? Is this an L for the Trump administration? And is this going to hold? I'm sure they're going to fight back.
I mean, it's an L in the legal realm, right? Because again, all these things are so clearly unconstitutional, and they're investigating the Jan 6 investigators. When that gets into the court system, you can't be on Earth 2. So it's gonna blow up on them. But maybe it carves out a little bit of the chaos. It's going to protect some segment of the population. I need to see what the whole list is. But I'm sure if I looked at that list, there will be many things I think of that they didn't have time in the wild panic to exempt. But yeah, they did get a little bit of a solid in terms of the reaction, because pausing federal loans, that means if I'm a vet, if I'm closing on my house at 6 o'clock today, too bad, because there would be a freeze, right? So I'm not sure that they can even really ungum a lot what they've done, because people reacted with the initial announcement, and that's why it's always amateur hour, but it's like amateur hour with Nazis, right?
Yeah. Well, let me just read a little bit of it, because this just happened 6 minutes ago, and we went on the air 8 minutes ago. Well, this is at least from I'm reading from the NBC, website. A federal judge on Tuesday granted an administrative stay in the case challenging the Trump administration's planned freeze on federal aid, pausing the plan for a week and setting a hearing for further arguments next Monday morning. So that means that we're going to hear about it. We won't hear anything about it until next Monday morning. The order only applies to the pause of disbursements in open grants. Judge Lauren Alicon said, and it doesn't get into the legality of the freeze, instead just giving the court more time for briefings. How do you read that, Rachel?
Yeah, well, what they're specifically trying to avoid is the headlines of people in cancer studies and other things like that have been paused, right? Because that's why they're continuing the ongoing grants. A lot of those are going to be research grants. I mean, it's something to be grateful for as a person, as a citizen, as a person, that wants our research to be top notch. It is a Band-Aid on a problem they self-created, like they always do. I mean, they always want to blame Democrats for everything, but everything that ever happens to MAGA, they do it to themselves. And this is such a great example.
And if you're joining us here, we have some breaking news, and I'm reading it just as it is coming in. The first time I'm hearing it, and the first time that you're hearing it. We're on with Rachel Bitecofer, who's a political analyst for The Cycle on Substack, the author of Hit 'Em Where It Hurts, and the co-host of This Is America podcast, and also Shock and Awe. Okay, and a federal judge has just temporarily blocked the Trump administration freeze on federal grants and loans. Let's see here. Federal grants and loans that could total trillions of dollars. The U.S. District Judge blocked the action Tuesday afternoon, minutes before it was set to go into effect. The administrative stay pauses the freeze until Monday. The White House had planned to start the pause as they begin an across-the-board ideological review of the spending. The plan sparked confusion and panic among organizations that rely on Washington for their financial lifeline. It never even got a chance to go into effect. The moment it's supposed to go into effect today, right, Rachel, at 5 o'clock, then all of a sudden, boom, the judge said, not so fast.
Yeah. I mean, the damage just from one day of that would be, I mean, it would take years in some of these cases to recover a pause like this. And that's why it's so, I mean, but let's go back to what you just said, right? Like it's not just that they're doing this and like, oh, it's Doge and about efficiency. Like the memo was very specific. We're pausing all federal funding because we want to check and make sure that it's ideologically congruent with our dear leader, Donald Trump. And if it isn't, then we don't think, even though Congress appropriated those funds under the Constitution and the former president signed that bill into law, executed that bill, and it is rolling, they don't think the law applies to them. And I have to tell you, as a person who spent the break between Election Day and the swearing in, pretty much on team dictatorship, right? It does indicate they intend to go both through the China shop, through the institutions, the rule of law, the norms they're purging the DOJ. So we have to take them serious immediately.
Yeah. Rachel, what does this say? Listen, we know that there's going to be a barrage of news with Donald Trump. He loves the spotlight, and in many ways, sometimes he shapes his policies and what he's doing in the White House just for attention. Do you think at all that this was for attention, or is this just because the cruelty is the punishment right now? Or is the cruelty is the point? Sorry, is the point and the punishment?
No, it's both. I mean, this is Donald Trump. We made Project 2020. We pulled it out of the shadows. I mean, they sent me a free copy of a 930-page book, right? But we pulled it out of the shadows to expose it to the American public. And the media, it's like, so Donald Trump says, I have nothing to do with Project 2025, and this is coming from a guy who lies more than he breathes. But the media kept reporting it as if it was a fact. And I study behavior, so I interact and observe a lot of behavior. And there are people that voted for Trump who took him at his word, that there was no connection between him. Well, now we know that, I knew that, but now we can clearly see that Project 2025 is running things. And if you have never read this document, if it's still new to you, spend some time on the Google machine, because they are in executing exactly what they said in writing they were going to do. Purge the civil servants who are unelected federal bureaucrats for a reason, so that they are apolitical. Purge all the agencies, the other people who are kind of, they're not active politicos. They're going to comply because they don't want to lose their careers, their homes, possibly get, death threats and the things that, Trump's enemies go through. So we're in a new world, and it's really not looking like it's good. We'll know a lot if Kash Patel gets confirmed.
Rachel Bitecofer has a new podcast out. It's with Rachel Bitecofer and Aaron Murphy, EO2 Shock and Awe. And we hope that you click onto it, tune in. We're always grateful to have your insight and to have you. And now, Rachel, go pick up your kid from school, okay? Thank you for doing the breaking news. And now you're going to be mommy. Many hats, many hats. Yeah, thank you, ma'am. We'll see you later. That was Rachel Bitecofer, and we're so glad to have her. So let's slow it down a little bit, because, look, even the shock and awe caught me off guard just now. And so, the Trump folks had planned to roll all of this stuff out, right? Getting rid of these federal programs and what have you, confusing people about Medicaid. It was supposed to take effect today at 5:00. And we just got word that a federal judge has blocked it, at least temporarily, for more review until Monday. That is what the breaking news is. Let me just read more of the reporting that's coming in before we move on. A federal judge halted President Donald Trump's freeze on federal aid programs, ruling that the courts need more time to consider the potentially far-reaching ramifications of this order. Just minutes before the directive from Trump's budget office was to take effect on Tuesday, U.S. District Judge Lauren Alicon blocked the Trump administration from implementing it now. Alicon's order will expire on February 3rd at 5 p.m. The Trump administration cannot suspend disbursement of any congressionally appropriated funds until then. The judge described the move as a brief administrative stay intended to maintain the status quo while further litigation can play out. Here's what the judge said. I think there is the specter of irreparable harm. An appointee of President Joe Biden, that judge is. So there is the specter of irreparable harm if this is done, if these funds are taken away, if this plan is implemented, that could do irreparable harm. It also flouts the power and the constitutional powers of the Congress. So how did we get here? This happened on yesterday. An abrupt halt of these federal funds on Monday night. That announcement created widespread confusion across the government, Congress, state programs, nonprofit organizations that rely on that funding. This came from the Office of Management and Budget. It sent a vaguely worded 2-page memo to all federal agencies on Monday night, directing them to temporarily pause all activities related to obligation or disbursement of all federal financial assistance that could conflict with President Donald Trump's agenda. The following morning, nonprofit organizations said that they were unable to get into a system used to access federal funds to pay for expenses like salaries and rent. This caused chaos all over the government. Had to pay employees who had to meet payroll, who had to pay out funds that people were due and they were expecting. They didn't know what to do. They couldn't even get into the system. Now, these are your leaders. These are the folks you voted for. These are the people that are supposed to be in charge of the United States and your well-being. And they can't even roll a very important initiative out correctly. Even if you agree with it or not, they screwed up, leaving many people wondering, hey, what about my Medicaid? This is what Senator Murphy said on Trump's funding freeze. This was before the breaking news, before the judge said the Trump folks can't do it, at least temporarily for now. This is what Senator Murphy said. Tim Murphy, here he is.
Last night, Donald Trump announced that he was going to implement a shutoff to virtually all federal funding in this country. Let me tell you why that really matters. First, it matters to you and your family and your community. That means that police officers don't get federal funding. That means firefighters don't get federal funding. That means your schools that your kids go to don't get their federal funding. That means nursing homes are shut off from funding. This is an immediate crisis for our kids, for public safety, for our seniors, for our healthcare system. And why? Because Donald Trump is trying to seize power. That is what is happening. Take together everything that has happened in the first week and understand it as part of the same story. First, the immunization of political violence. If you commit violence in my name, then you will be excused and let off the hook.
Pause.
The
okay.
firing of all
He's
of
going through all of it. Okay. And by the way, producers just informed me. I think I said Tim Murphy. I meant Chris Murphy, of course. So let's pause it there for a moment because he's going through. Can you imagine the freezing of federal funds? This is unprecedented. That people won't be able to get their stuff. You guys this isn't concerning to you? Again, as I said, that our own government and the people who are supposed to be in charge, the people who are supposed to be in charge of, look, the MAGA party, and guess who's going to be affected by this more than anyone? MAGA voters, Donald Trump's own supporters. They're going to lose out on Medicaid. I wonder how they would feel about that. They're going to possibly lose out on Medicaid. They're going to possibly lose out on EBT programs, right? Being able to get food and resources to help feed your family, to fill the gap between that paycheck that doesn't necessarily, especially, they don't want to raise the minimum wage, that doesn't necessarily pay all your bills and puts food on your table. And this is where they are. Senator Chris Murphy continuing talking about the chaos of what is happening this week. Call for attention.
Of all of the inspector generals that sit inside these agencies to make sure that your money, taxpayer money, isn't being stolen from you. And now the decision by Donald Trump to shut down all federal money except the money he wants to spend. And guess where Donald Trump is going to decide to unfreeze federal grants?
Listen closely.
The companies run by his billionaire friends.
Pause,
To
please.
the states and congressional.
Pause, please. Back that up. I want you to listen. When people are saying, hey, they're trying to get you to keep fighting amongst yourselves. Remember, I said this to you today, to keep paying attention to the BS, right? The bullshit, to keep falling for the okie doke. In the meantime, their hands are in your pockets and you're out fighting about something ridiculous. And so Senator Chris Murphy says, and guess Donald Trump wants to freeze everything except for the things that he doesn't want frozen. And guess what he doesn't want frozen? Senator Chris Murphy.
And guess where Donald Trump is going to decide to unfreeze federal grants? To the companies run by his billionaire friends, to the states and congressional districts run by members of Congress or governors that are loyal to him. All of a sudden, we transition from a democracy to a monarchy, because that's what a king does, uses the money in the treasury to reward his friends and to punish his enemies. That is what Donald Trump announced last night, that he alone, not the voters, not members of Congress, will decide who gets money, what schools get funded, what hospitals stay open, and nobody else. That's not democracy. Yes, the funding freeze is going to make life miserable for regular people, but we are also confronting a constitutional crisis that requires all of us, Democrats, the media, Republicans, the American people, to rise to this moment.
Amen. Chris Murphy from Connecticut, thank you very much, sir. Now that is when you need a good explainer. That is when you need sort of a PowerPoint presentation presented on social media. That's what you need in the moment to explain how this MAGA craziness is putting you in jeopardy of being able to feed your family, pay your bills, take the food off of your table, out of your kids' mouths. Let's talk about the legalities of all of this, because a judge just said, nope, an L for the Trump folks, an L for the White House, an L for the MAGA people, although on the back end they're winning because their federal funds are not being taken away. Let's talk to someone who knows the law. Monique Presley joins us now. Monique, I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for joining us. We were going to have you on later in the week, but we need you now. A federal judge has halted, you are fired up about this, a federal judge has halted President Donald Trump's freeze on federal programs, aid programs, ruling that the courts need more time to consider the potentially far-reaching ramifications of his order. Minutes before the directive for Trump's budget office was supposed to take effect on Tuesday, the judge blocked the Trump administration from implementing it now. And here's what she said. It's Monday, right? They're going to review it on Monday, February 3rd. Okay, or is it Tuesday, February 3rd? She said, and this is a quote, "I think there is the specter of irreparable harm if this actually goes into effect." Monique, talk to me.
What a mess. What a horrible, cruel, intentionally cruel, chaos-driven mess. And the chaos of it, though, is not the point, in that I would like for, hi, Lemonheads, hi, everybody. Thanks for having me, Don. Sorry, my brain is wild. The chaos is not the point, though. And sometimes
Monique, no worries. Take your time. We got all the time in the world. We're just happy that you're here, and the Lemonheads love you, and that's why you're on. So take your time. Go on.
The chaos is not the point. I see a lot of people saying, this is just to throw us off. This is to have so many things thrown at us at one time that we can't think straight. But Don, this is a heist. This is a heist of federal government funds. This is a heist of constitutional power, to the point of Congressman Murphy. This is a hijacking of not just our systems, but of our tax dollars and of the rights that have been given to a particular branch of government to appropriate and allocate what is done with those funds. And the thing that is critical here, well, there's so many things that are critical. The judge, when asking the questions in this virtual hearing, wasn't getting good answers from the Justice Department lawyers about the scope, the intended organizations and agencies that would be affected, whether there would be individuals affected. All of these things ended up coming back to her with no answers. And so the temporary halt really was, government, get your act together. More so right now than a decision about the legalities. It was, I don't think you know what you're doing, and you cannot provide me the answers that I should have in order to even make this decision. So we're going to freeze now so you can get your butt in gear and you can go back to your bosses and you guys can all get on the same page about what's actually happening here and then come back. But the other thing that I want to say is, there are people who know exactly what they're doing, because this was planned the whole time. I posted a few days ago from OMB nominee director votes hearing, where Senator Tim Kaine questioned him about his intention, his authorship of Chapter 2 of Project 2025, which called for a cut in SNAP, which called for a cut in rental assistance, which called for a freeze on these federally funded programs that help people who have little. This was all in the plan, and they're not even waiting for that man to be confirmed before getting started.
Monique.
Yes, sir.
This judge just saved a whole hell of a lot of Donald Trump's own voters, of the MAGA people who don't realize how they voted against their own interest. This judge, for now, temporarily just saved them from chaos. As you have been saying, this judge looked at this and said, I'm not getting good answers here. It seems to me you don't know what you're doing. You're supposed to be the people in charge. And here we are in a moment where this is supposed to be implemented, and you still have not given the correct information to the American people. The website that you have, or wherever folks are supposed to go to make sure, the people who are supposed to make sure this happens, they can't even get in there and figure it out. This was just a bunch of, I don't even know what the word is. You can call it an F up. I've been saying the F word way too much, but I think this time it's warranted. But I'll let other folks say this as an F up at the highest degree, and a 100% L at this moment for the Trump White House. Now, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but you know your way around the law. What do you think? How does this bode for Tuesday? What might we be looking at? And is the judge going to look at this and say, hey, you guys don't know what the hell you're doing. We're not doing this. Are they going to have to change? Are they going to have to pull back? Are they going to have to go back and edit? What's going to happen? Do we know? Can you give us a gander?
And I've got to just be candid with you. Even as I am discussing it, like I'm fighting, keeping the tears from shooting out of both sides of my eyes.
I can see it.
Because this is harmful to so many people. And we can't miss in this moment that in every state in the country right now, the Medicaid portals ended up shut down. So we don't know what the ramifications, and they claim that it was because of something separate. They're on all kinds of BS and unrelated. And yeah, I mean, they try to sell us a bridge right now. But that is already going to have ramifications because we don't know what kind of delays there are going to be for people trying to get medicine, for people who need these funds in order to meet payroll, for like transitional housing programs, homeless shelters, everything you can think of, people getting their medicine. All of that is still being affected, even with the temporary freeze, because the portals were locked down before the freeze went in place.
Oh.
What I believe is going to happen Tuesday is some of what is already
Wait,
happening.
Monique.
Go ahead.
That is such a good point. I hate to cut you off. That is such a good point before you go into what happens.
Yeah.
If the portals are already shut down, it's still chaos, possibly.
It's currently chaos, and they said that it was going to be temporary. They sent that press secretary out there to lie to the American public. Today was her first day, obviously, and she came out there and said, you know, they have an understanding. They are aware of the problem. It's unrelated. Individuals are not going to be harmed. I mean, she told lie after lie after lie, not just on this, but on other huge constitutional issues. I don't know if you've already talked about it, but she said that it's the legal opinion of this White House that birthright citizenship is unconstitutional. She called the Constitution unconstitutional and said that that is the official legal position of the freaking White House. So I think what they'll do, they have this Q&A that they've put out from OMB that is saying that some of the agencies have already been in contact with them and given them the information they need in order to be back online and receive their services. So they're going to claim that this was meant to be temporary to get additional information from the agencies, and they'll have to start trying to call back some of it. But I think ultimately the judge, if the judge is going to do the right thing, will say that this violates the impoundment clause of the Constitution, that the impoundment clause is what says when Congress says that Don Lemon and Monique Presley are supposed to get $100,000, that Donald Trump can't then send Russell Vogt through OMB to say, we think they need 20,000. We're going to take this extra 80,000 and we're going to put it on building our wall. We're going to take this extra 80,000 and we're going to make for a cut for billionaires. We think this extra 80,000 should go to our ownership of Greenland. You can't do that with congressionally allocated funds. So I think that she will make that decision. If they don't pull it all down first and say, yeah, we tried it, that would be wisdom. If they just said, we tried it and backed away.
Or if it's going to go the way of remember the Muslim ban that they tried and the judge was like, you can't do this. You just cannot do this. By the way, if you're watching us, remember, look, we have so many people watching us today. The engagement is crazy. Tens of thousands of folks watching us. And the breaking news here on what just happened, the judge blocking the Trump White House's ban on these federal funds. Monique Presley is joining us. So make sure you hit the thumbs up. If you're watching us, it affects the algorithm and more people become aware of our channel and our conversation. So thank you so much. And make sure you hit the thumbs up, hit the hearts if you're watching us on TikTok as well. We're streaming on TikTok. We're streaming on YouTube. We're streaming on Facebook and Instagram, anywhere you get your streaming. So make sure you hit the thumbs up and make sure you become a member and subscribe to our channel. Monique, before we get to what happens next, I just want to play something for you. And we can talk about what you think is going to happen on Tuesday, right? Tuesday is February 3rd, I believe, that it is blocked until then, until they review it. This is Senator Tim Kaine on the effects of the funding freeze. Let's listen, everyone. Listen.
Calls are coming in from around Virginia from child care centers that worry that their funding is being cut off to the center or to parents. who need it to help their kids with childcare, to universities that are doing medical research, who are, billing the research institutions like the NIH for the research they're doing, unsure whether they will get a reimbursement. I've got a nonprofit in Virginia that specializes in helping low-income people and seniors apply for Medicaid. Some of their staff are funded by a federal grant. They think those staffers will potentially lose their jobs. Veterans yesterday told me they had been unable to access the VA portal for even getting medical appointments at the VA. And I have a brand new VA clinic scheduled to open in Fredericksburg in February. The opening date is still scheduled, but they believe they're under a hiring freeze and can't hire the staff that they need to serve veterans in that population. This is all real-time worries coming in.
Okay, so I've been fact checked by the group. Monday is the 3rd. Monday is the 3rd. Okay, Monique, what do you say to what Tim Kaine said?
Well, first of all, hats off to Senator Tim Kaine, because he was one of the people who's on the Senate Budget Committee who was questioning Russell Vogt about his Center for American Progress, about his authorship of Project 2025, about his desire to cut programs like SNAP, rental assistance, and energy assistance, like for cold nights, that helps people to be able to pay their electric bill. Never mind all these countless programs, but he did confront him on those things and on this very obvious plan that was in place. As I was saying before you played his comments, I believe that the government either has to come with specifics about not just which programs would be affected and why, but also with legal sufficiency. They're going to have to establish for the judge that there is a legal justification for temporary freeze, because the only thing OMB is supposed to be able to do is issue funds. They're not supposed to be the ones who are ultimately making decisions outside of congressional appropriation or president's budget. They have very clearly delineated areas and specters of what they do with the budget. They are the managers of the funds. They are not the decision makers. And so if the president is trying an end run around Congress, around his own party, frankly, Senator Lindsey Graham is the new chair of the Senate Budget Committee. They are responsible for promulgating the regulations regarding the budget and for making these decisions. They're the place where all of the committees put their budgets together, and then it all goes through the process and goes through a vote before the House and the Senate. That's the way our finances are supposed to be run in this country. And this is a snatch. Like this is it's I was about to say it's so ghetto, but it really is. This
Say
is
it.
punching.
It's independent media.
This is punching the window and snatching for it. That's exactly what this is. They are snatching for people's taxes. I've seen people saying they're not paying their federal taxes. Why pay it if it's not going to be spent the way it's supposed to? If they're going to violate the Constitution, they're going to do all of these things. But that's what I think is going to happen on Tuesday. And my strong suggestion between now and Tuesday would be that every person who believes that they have a right to be in this country and that we have a representative democracy needs to be calling their members, their state offices, their local offices, their federal offices, and saying, we will not stand for this. Do not allow for this. Fix it.
Do we have producers? I sent you the something to what Monique just said, and this was from former Senator and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Said she basically gave a primer on social media of what you do when you call your local congressman or senator to tell them that this is some, as you said, punching the window and grabbing it. Okay, listen, lots of comments there. It's all a mess, says Deborah Yvette in the comments. You folks are preach. Monique says jaded one. If you remember, your comments get highlighted here on the Don Lemon channel on Lemon Live at 5. This is where our viewers, our subscribers get a chance to talk back to us and we answer questions. Why would they care about veterans? Trump has torn them down. How many times says Rebecca Gilberto? Why would he care about veterans? Jazz and Laughter says Trump is enjoying all of this chaos. I believe the cruelty is the point. Can we do anything, says the side eye. Monique just told you what you can do. Senator Hillary Clinton, former Senator Hillary Clinton, also today telling us what we can do. And we'll put it up if we get it. Betty Howard says, we, the American people, have to stand up and protest. You know who else has to stand up and protest? Kristen Thompson said something on a comment moments ago that I saw flash across the screen. And I think she is 100% correct on all of this one. She said, people are freaking out everywhere, Monique. Time for the DNC to scream it from the rooftops that this is Trump. This is what you voted for. Hold up a mirror and get on and do the right messaging. Let me put this up. This is a tweet from actually someone who works on the Don Lemon Show. And it talks about what Democrats need to do about this messaging. Let's put up. This is from Peter. And Peter says what Democrats need to do. Can we put Peter's tweet up? Do we have it? Okay. If not, put the Hillary Clinton one up, whatever one you have. All right. So this is from Peter. Peter says the Medicaid portals didn't glitch. There was no outage as you were attempting to spin it. The portals were shut down as a result of the memo from Trump's OMB. Democrats, you saved Medicaid. Make sure every voter in the country knows FFS. You know what that means, for F's sake. Claim credit where credit is due. Caroline Leavitt, he's responding to the White House press secretary her first day. The White House is aware of the Medicaid website portal outage. We have confirmed no payments have been affected. They are still being sent. They are still being processed and sent. We expect the portal will be back online shortly. Peter is saying not so fast. Democrats, figure out how to message. Do you agree with Kristen Thompson and with Peter?
I think we need to pay better attention to what's actually happening. And I know that you and I talk offline, online a lot about how to break through all of the misinformation and make sure that people are hearing what's actually happening. But every senator was standing up at that press conference about why this was wrong. All of the people, they've been doing separate individual posts. I don't know if people literally need them to scream in order to understand that they are against.
You know that's a figure of speech. You know it.
Well, yeah. I don't think so, because I know people who will like watch it and say, but what are you gonna do about it? And I'm like, yeah, but the thing is, like, I mean, even as I've been posting, people are saying they need to arrest him. Arrest him for what? The Supreme Court said that he's free from criminal prosecution. He's immune. They need to impeach him. Impeach him how? The Republicans have both houses of Congress because y'all sat on your asses instead of going to vote. They need to. And I'm like, I'm sure probably some members of Congress are like, we screamed for a year to try to get you guys to actually go out and vote. And you did not. And we said we needed both houses and we lost both houses. So I think that there are limits in terms of them looking as hysterical as the public is feeling. And certainly they need to be better at figuring out how to get the message to people who need to hear it. But frankly, the Democrats did not save Medicaid, because it wasn't the Democrats who were in the position to file a lawsuit. These are nonprofits who came together on the drop of a dime. These are lawyers who put on their freaking capes and ran into the courthouse ready to file suit against this administration. That's what saved Medicaid, at least for the next week. And save veterans programs.
But don't you think they need to all be on the same messaging all the time, not just this time? I think that maybe this is a lesson for them to all get on the same page if they're going to go wherever they're going to go, if they're going to go on traditional media, on corporate media, if they're going to come on independent media, if they're going to put out, press releases. They need to make sure that what they're putting out, that folks understand that the Democrats saved Medicaid. They need to go on Fox News. They need to go into the lion's den. Senator Chris Murphy tweeted about the White House needing to check on Medicare. The White House needing to check on Medicare. Let's put that one up. And so, look, Senator Murphy has really been out front in all of this, needing to check on Medicare. And then Sam Stein talks about how Trump voters are going to be hit hardest by these Medicare cuts. Okay? That's Sam Stein. And then we're going to talk. For what it's worth, the federal grant funding pause is going to impact a lot of people who voted for Trump. Whether they care or connect the dots is another matter. Talk about F around and find out. This is against their own interests.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, listen, it's the complete misperception. And in one of my organizers group chats today, there were people talking about how people who vote for Trump have always been voting against their own interests. He never was interested in helping or saving the middle class, giving a leg up for poor people. And it's the same as what happened, frankly, with Obamacare. It took the dodos like 4 years to figure out the Affordable Care Act that they depend on to get insurance is Obamacare. And then they're like, oh, wait, we don't want that to disappear. So
and
the
Monique,
messaging,
you can't say dodos because it offends some people, and I'm being sarcastic, as you know. I believe in calling it what it is.
please be offended.
That's why we love you. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Take offense. Take great offense.
It is what it is, right? Monique, people are asking what to do. I'm so glad that you're here and you're telling what to do. It's getting dark. The sun is going down. The sun is going down. And look, I believe that is a metaphor for what's happening in America right now. But Monique, we were talking about what to do.
Light.
And you said to call your lawmaker. Senator Hillary Clinton also put this out today, telling people what to do. And I wonder what you think of it. Basically giving people a script. She says, this is what you should do on the administration of freezing all funds. It says, hi, my name is such and such. I'm calling from, give them the zip code. And then you say, I'm calling on the House member or senator or whatever to speak out against President Trump's action on Monday in freezing all federal aid. This is blatantly illegal. The executive branch can't unilaterally decide to ignore laws that were passed by Congress, especially when it comes to financial aid. And then it says, you must take a member of Congress, you must take action and clarify how this will stop the freeze and ensure that the millions who are directly impacted by financial aid will not be harmed. And then an additional comment. Is this effective? Is this productive, what she's doing?
Yes. I mean, frankly, it's what we have. I think that people need to understand it really does matter, especially for your own member. That's why, and actually, if you go into her stories, into Secretary Clinton's stories, or into mine, I included it there as well, and other people did. I'm at Monique Presley on IG, and that I have that posted, and it's in my stories with the link where you can figure out who your members are, because that matters too. I think you can go to USA Gov and find that, and then you can plug in where you are and it'll tell you who your people are. If you don't know, there is no judgment involved in you not knowing. Just get the facts and then go from there. These people want to stay elected. So particularly if you are represented by members of Congress who are in the Republican Party, who want to keep their jobs, it is just as important that you reach out to them as it is urging Democrats. All the Republicans are not cut from the same cloth, and they all want to stay in office. So they listen to their home members. Take it from me. My first start in DC was working for Congressman Jack Brooks from 2nd Congressional District of Texas. And when somebody called from home, we answered for Billy Bob before we answered for John Todd, whomever. from Washington, D.C. calling to complain. We cared about the district, and they are very much still like that. So all of this matters. It is something you can do. If you're watching right now, you have a platform. So your voice matters. Speaking out in your own voice against these things matter. It doesn't have to relate to you directly. You don't have to be a recipient of the funds. You know somebody that this is going to affect, because this is about medicine for seniors. This is about veterans benefits. This is about children's education. And they're trying to cut it all and snatch the money and spend $86 billion trying to build a border wall. They're trying to snatch the money and do other things with it. It's not just cuts for billionaires. They have specific programs that they need to fund, that they want to be able to take this funding and use it like it's discretionary when it's not.
Monique Presley, we're going to let you go.
Thank
you have done your black job today. And more.
Sorry,
listen,
my light is leaving. I pulled off to the side of the road because I just wanted to be able to share.
We had Monique. We said Monique reached out, and we reached out to Monique and said, hey, look, depending on where this goes, we want to have you come on possibly later in the week to talk about this. And then it happened. It was blocked. And we're like, get Monique. And there she is. Monique, thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining. Thank you so much. So this is where we are. And look, we give you practical information on this program, or what you can do at this point if you are interested, if this is going to affect you, if you're concerned about it. That's what you do. Call your member of Congress or call your senator. We gave you a script for it. We gave you the breaking news. So make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and we appreciate it. This is what we do on independent media with no corporate overlords. Okay? Now, I want to play something for you. Thank you, Kimberly Eisler. And then we're going to get to your comments in a moment. So not to worry. Your comments are coming up. So make sure you hit the thumbs up and then stand by, because our member comments are coming up. I just want to play a little bit of this, because when I saw this, I said, this cannot be true. This cannot be real. This member of Congress is not saying this about kids and people and Americans. There's no way that this is happening. This is my former colleague and friend, Pamela Brown, on the CNN earlier today, speaking to a GOP representative. Now listen and watch closely, everyone.
Would you support getting rid of, school lunch for vulnerable kids and breakfast and Head Start, for example, and getting rid of childhood cancer research? Do you support that? And what do you say to your constituents? I want to follow up on that question too, because I didn't hear an answer from you.
Sure. So I'm an ER doc. And I know that philanthropy is where you get most of your money for childhood cancer research, for example. And it's not just you look at what the president just proposed, a $500 billion spending bill on AI to produce cancer early detection in the first stage on most body parts. That's his spending bill, where he wants to increase cancer research. So it's just about what part of the money it comes out of. When you talk about school lunches, hey, I worked my way through high school. I don't know about you, but I worked since I was, before I was even 13 years old. I was picking berries in the field before we had child labor laws that precluded that. I was a paper boy. And when I was in high school, I worked my entire way through. You're telling me that kids who stay at home instead of going to work at Burger King and McDonald's during the summer should stay at home and get their free lunch instead of going to work? I think we need to have a top-down review.
I think you're painting a lot of these kids with a broad brush. I would say that's not necessarily a fair assessment of all of the kids. So you would say all the kids in your district who use the free lunch, for example, or breakfast, they're all just sitting at home and not working. Okay, I just want to clarify, because that seems like what you were trying to insinuate.
This gives us a chance. This gives us a chance, though, to see where is the money really being spent. Who can actually go and actually produce their own income? Who can actually go out there and do something that makes them have value and work skills for the future? I mean, how many people got their start in fast food restaurants when they were kids versus just giving a blanket rule that gives all kids lunches in high school who are capable of going out and actually getting a job and doing something that makes them have value, thinking about their future instead of thinking about how they're going to sponge out the government when they don't need to. We don't give people value. We don't give them the ability to dig themselves out when we penalize them for actually working and actually keep them on welfare. That's what's been the inner city problem for a very long time. We need to have a top-down review so we can get people out of poverty, because you know what? America's very good at creating jobs and giving people worth. And we've been very traditionally good at that, but we're losing our way. And that's when we give people incentives to stay at home and not work. That doesn't work for America.
But a lot of these kids aren't even of like working age. They're young kids, and
Finally,
as you well know, and also some of the kids at Head Start, they're like 5 and under. But I just want to ask you, because
thank you. The old bootstraps. Pour yourself up by your bootstraps. When people would say there are many people who don't have bootstraps, and you have to be a certain age to go to work, is to go to work at fast food or whatever. That's a whole nother conversation about the national minimum wage. But some of these kids, it may be, especially if you come from a poor family and folks don't understand, and in theory, in the perfect country, in some sort of utopian society where everything is equal, then you can say, hey, these kids shouldn't be on the lunch, but you don't know the backgrounds. How did these folks get there? And then keep asking your question. Keep reducing and deducing. How much? Why? Why are these people poor? Okay. Why were they placed in this situation? What happened? And just keep going back to that to figure out that this whole bootstrap shit does not work. Of course, we want to incentivize people to get out of poverty, to enhance and enrich themselves. But you have to have a mentality that understands that not everybody has the privileges of some people. Not everybody has a family, 2 working parents. Not everybody has disposable income. Sometimes those meals are the only meals that children get. You cannot say, I want to take this away. You can't say the economy is terrible. This is what Republicans are saying on one hand. The economy is terrible. People can't make ends meet. The cost of goods are too high. Eggs are too expensive. That's why you need to elect us, and then get in office. And then they say, well, we can't bring the price of goods and eggs down. And then on the other hand, say, well, folks need to get a job. Kids need to get jobs. If their parents can't make ends meet, right? How are the parents going to pay for lunches? And especially if the kids are too young to work. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. And you know what? Pamela did a great job with that. She did a really good job with that. And I think that should be an example for everyone in the media to hold people's feet to the fire without fear or favor. I'm going to get to that. Everyone has been asking me, Don, when are you going to talk about Jim Acosta? When are you going to address Jim Acosta, your former colleague? When are you going to talk about it? I am going to talk about it. So stand by for news. That is what we call in the business a deep tease. That's coming up. But before we do that, the folks, we've been following all the confirmation hearings happening in Washington. Pete Hegseth, Kristi Noem, Pam Bondi, and now RFK Jr. We're following that one. Caroline Kennedy, I believe is the cousin. How do I always get the Kennedy family tree mixed up? It's his niece. No, it's his cousin. Caroline Kennedy has this to say about her family member. Watch this.
Dear Senators, throughout the past year, people have asked for my thoughts about my cousin Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his presidential campaign. I did not comment, not only because I was serving in a government position as United States Ambassador to Australia, but because I have never wanted to speak publicly about my family members and their challenges. We are a close generation of 28 cousins who have been through a lot together. We know how hard it's been, and we are always there for each other. But now that Bobby has been nominated by President Trump to be Secretary of Health and Human Services, a position that would put him in charge of the health of the American people, I feel an obligation to speak out.
Listen closely.
Overseeing the FDA, the NIH, the CDC, and Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, agencies that are charged with protecting the most vulnerable among us, is an enormous responsibility and one that Bobby is unqualified to fill. He lacks any relevant government, financial, management, or medical experience. His views on vaccines are dangerous and willfully misinformed. These facts alone should be disqualifying. But he has personal qualities related to this job, which for me pose even greater concern.
Please listen closely.
I've known Bobby my whole life. We grew up together. It's no surprise that he keeps birds of prey as pets, because Bobby himself is a predator. He's always been charismatic, able to attract others through the strength of his personality, his willingness to take risks and break the rules. I watch his younger brothers and cousins follow him down the path of drug addiction. His basement, his garage, his dorm room were always the center of the action, where drugs were available, and he enjoyed showing off how he put baby chickens and mice in a blender to feed to his hawks. It was often a perverse scene of despair and violence. That was a long time ago, and people can change. Through his own strength and the many second chances he was given by people who felt sorry for the boy who lost his father, Bobby was able to pull himself out of illness and disease. I admire the discipline that took and the continuing commitment it requires. But siblings and cousins who Bobby encouraged down the path of substance abuse suffered addiction, illness, and death, while Bobby has gone on to misrepresent, lie, and cheat his way through life. Today, while he may encourage a younger generation to attend AA meetings, Bobby is addicted to attention and power. Bobby preys on the desperation of parents of sick children, vaccinating his own kids while building a following hypocritically discouraging other parents from vaccinating theirs.
Pause. Did you hear that?
Before he fills.
Did you hear that? He vaccinates his own kids. But is that what he tells the public? Is that what you're hearing from him? Besides the birds and all of that and the addiction, which is awful. But think about the things now and more recently that he has been espousing about vaccines, about autism, about a number of things. And yet, and still, according to his cousin, she is saying that he is a hypocrite. She is saying that he vaccinates his own kids, but then he comes out and he tells you something different. Now, Caroline Kennedy is not the type that is prone to hyperbole. She said she didn't want to talk about it, but she thought it was important enough now that he is in this position. She's not someone that flies off the handle. She's someone who's very measured. This should carry weight, but will it in this world where nothing matters, it seems? Will it? I hope you're listening, MAGA. I hope the Trump White House is listening to this, and I hope the senators who are going to vote on his appointment listen, I should say, to this. Your comments are coming up, and I'm going to talk about Jim Acosta, but continue now with Caroline Kennedy.
This job. His constant denigration of our healthcare system and the conspiratorial half-truths he's told about vaccines, including in connection with Samoa's deadly 2019 outbreak of measles, have cost lives. And now we know that Bobby's crusade against vaccination has benefited him in other ways too. His ethics report makes clear that he will keep his financial stake in a lawsuit against an HPV vaccine. In other words, Bobby is willing to profit and enrich himself by denying access to a vaccine that can prevent almost all forms of cervical cancer and has already been safely administered to millions of boys and girls. During my time in Australia, I worked on the Quad Cancer Initiative, and I learned that cervical cancer is among the top 3 forms of cancer among women in a majority of countries. Tragically, every year, more than 200,000 children lose their mothers. They are orphaned due to a lack of vaccines and screening. Those are the real-world consequences of Bobby's irresponsible beliefs. We are a close family, and none of that is easy to say. It also wasn't easy to remain silent last year when Bobby expropriated my father's image and distorted President Kennedy's legacy to advance his own failed presidential campaign, and then groveled to Donald Trump for a job. Bobby continues to grandstand off my father's assassination and that of his own father. It's incomprehensible to me that someone who is willing to exploit their own painful family tragedies for publicity would be put in charge of America's life and death situations. Unlike Bobby, I try not to speak for my father, but I am certain that he and my Uncle Bobby, who gave their lives in public service to our country, and my Uncle Teddy, who devoted his long Senate career to the cause of improving health care, would be disgusted. The American healthcare system, for all its flaws, is the envy of the world. Its doctors and nurses, researchers, scientists, and caregivers are the most dedicated people I know. Every day they give their lives to heal and save others. They deserve a knowledgeable leader who is committed to evidence and excellence. They deserve a secretary committed to advancing cutting-edge medicine to save lives, not to rejecting the advances we have already made. They deserve a stable, moral, and ethical person at the helm of this crucial agency. They deserve better than Bobby Kennedy, and so do the rest of us. I urge the Senate to reject his nomination. Sincerely, Carolyn Kennedy.
Wow. That is one reason I'm so happy that we are here. To be able to bring to you something that is that long and worth running for you to hear every single word of it. Not that we don't have to rush to a commercial break. That was really important to hear what she had to say. The American people deserve better. The folks who are in our healthcare system, the professionals, deserve better. Again, these are all her words. All her words. Now, y'all, I understand from the producers we have even more breaking news to discuss with you. My goodness. It just keeps coming in. Okay, let me talk about this before I get to the Jim Acosta, because I know you guys want me to talk about that. You have been asking me, okay? Let's put the breaking news up, shall we? The White House on Tuesday began offering buyouts worth 7 months of salary to all federal employees who opt to leave their jobs by February 6th, part of President Donald Trump's unprecedented overhaul of the U.S. government. This memo from the Office of Personnel Management, the government's human resources agency, lists 4 directives that it says Trump is mandating for a federal workforce, including that most workers return to their offices full-time. It includes deferred resignation letter for federal employees wishing to participate. And then it goes on. This is an overhaul of the government, people. And now they're offering buyouts. An overhaul of the government. And now they're offering buyouts. If you resign under this program, you will retain all pay and benefits regardless of your daily workload and will be exempted from all applicable in-person work requirements until September 30th. So there you go. Kind of sounds familiar. It rings true to what's happening in the journalism business, in the broadcast news business, in the media business. Now, here's the story as I will tell it, and I'm just going to tell it straight with the facts. According to the reporting, Jim Acosta, who was chief White House correspondent when Donald Trump was president the first time, pushed back against the falsities, the false equivalencies, the lies, the obfuscation, stood up to the president, Donald Trump, then had his press passes taken away. CNN fought. I believe they took it to court to have him restored. They gave him back. Jim Acosta speaks truth to power. He holds people accountable, and he does it as a journalist should, without fear or favor. CNN switched its lineup. I'm not sure. I think Jim Acosta was on in the afternoon. I haven't watched. I don't know the lineup. But apparently, Jim was asked, according to the reporting, to stay at the network, to leave his current spot, which is somewhere in the afternoon or early evening, or to leave that spot and move to midnight, the graveyard shift. Move his current spot in the afternoon to go to midnight on cable news, on a network as the cable networks are, except for Fox News, that has declining viewership and low ratings. This is just the facts. Well, Jim Acosta said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to be afraid. I believe in pushing back on authoritarian-like figures, on dictator-like figures, on lies. Jim Acosta did not believe in platforming insurrectionists and election deniers. Jim Acosta did not believe in putting people on television who were going to come on in order to expressly tell lies. Now, look, I don't know if that's why he got moved, but I know that's what Jim Acosta stands for because he said it. And you know how I know? Again, because he decided to leave the network, and here's what he said on his way out. Watch.
End today's show by thanking all of the wonderful people who work behind the scenes at this network. You may have seen some reports about me and the show. And after giving all of this some careful consideration and weighing an alternative time slot CNN offered me, I've decided to move on. I am grateful to CNN for the nearly 18 years I've spent here doing the news. People often ask me if the highlight of my career at CNN was at the White House covering Donald Trump. Actually, no. That moment came here when I covered former President Barack Obama's trip to Cuba in 2016 and had the chance to question the dictator there, Raul Castro, about the island's political prisoners. As the son of a Cuban refugee, I took home this lesson. It is never a good time to bow down to a tyrant. I've always believed it's the job of the press to hold power to account. I've always tried to do that here at CNN, and I plan on doing all of that in the future. One final message. Don't give in to the lies. Don't give in to the fear. Hold on to the truth and to hope. Even if you have to get out your phone, record that message. I will not give in to the lies. I will not give in to the fear. Post it on your social media so people can hear from you too. I'll have more to say about my plans in the coming days, but until then, I want to thank all of you for tuning in. It has been an honor to be welcomed into your home for all these years. That's the news. Reporting from Washington, I'm Jim Acosta.
So there you go. Jim Acosta, I can't believe that they did it. I was not allowed that opportunity, by the way. I'll say that much. Now, do you remember, at least Estella W., thank you, read my mind, at least he got the chance to publicly resign. Here's the thing. You remember that I told you, I've been telling you guys for months now, or for weeks since the election, I've been saying to you, watch the entire industry. Watch the newspaper industry, the print industry, watch the broadcast news industry, watch the cable news industry, watch. They are going to start purging center right, center left, left-leaning voices throughout the entire industry. That is what is going on here. It's coming to fruition. Look at the people who've left the Washington Post or have been pushed out or have resigned. Look at what's happening at all the different networks. When you say all of a sudden your favorite person is gone, it's been happening for a couple of years now. All of a sudden your favorite person is not there. And you're like, wait, that person used to speak truth to power. The person would hold people accountable. They didn't put people on TV just to fight and argue. They didn't elevate the MAGA voices and get rid of the more liberal voices, the non-MAGA voices. What's going on here? What is going on here? I think people can see what's going on in this industry. An industry that needs more people like Jim Acosta, who on his way out today made this announcement. And you know how I feel about independent media. Here's Jim.
Hey guys, it's Jim. And let me just say this, I've had quite the day. But as you could see earlier today, this was my last day at CNN. And I did want to jump on Substack Live here for a moment and say, welcome to my new venture. I'm going independent, at least for now. This is just the beginning, but I wanted to invite you to join me here on this platform as we talk about the day's news, talk about politics and so on. And I do want to, just in case you missed my closing message earlier in the day, don't give in to the lies. Don't give in to fear. Hold on to the truth and hope. And we'll keep this conversation going. Great to see all of you here. We'll talk some more soon.
Okay, so let me tell you, you guys know this is the kind of person I am. I'm not a hater. I love all of my colleagues at CNN, the best in the business. They are facing tremendous headwinds, the entire industry. They're facing tremendous pressure, not just from outside, but from within as well. All of the networks. Cheryl Butler, AKA Marty Pro, says he looks so much better. LOL. Yes, he does. Weight off of his shoulder, I think. So this is the kind of person that I am, right? You guys know. I wish everyone at every network at CNN the very, very best. As I said, best in the business. I worked there for almost 17 years. I wish that I would have been granted the opportunity to be able to say goodbye to the viewers live. Unfortunately, that did not happen. That's another story. But here's the thing. Independent media is so important. He will enjoy independent media. You're right. I am proud of Jim Acosta, says Audria. Let's welcome Jim Acosta to independent media by helping him set a record for subscribers and members over at Substack. If you're a member here, we want you to subscribe. We want you to stay a member here. We want you to subscribe, become a member. It is our life's blood. That's how we keep on the air, is because of your generosity. We do not have big corporate sponsors, and that's the whole point of it. Jim Acosta is going to be on Substack. If you have the resources, if you have the wherewithal, if you can do it, go welcome him on Substack and support Jim Acosta and others like him. There are many of us out here who are fighting to be able to tell the truth without worrying about being fired, without worrying about what bosses will say to us, whether someone will use a misstatement as a predicate to fire you. Whether someone has your back or not. You don't have to worry. Jim no longer has to worry about whether a boss or anyone has his back, because you can have his back. You can have the back of all the independent journalists who are out here telling you the truth. And as I say to you, always, 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 and I believe this to the core of my being, I know that this independent place where we are now is the future. And I know, since I've been here doing this, that you can be informed, as I say every single day. You can be informed without being inundated. You don't have to sit in front of the television and be outraged all day. You don't have to look at every single alert that comes across your phone, because you know when you need it, giving you the facts, the folks in independent media will have your back. Go live your life and go support those of us who are in independent media. Okay? So I love you for watching. I want you to hit the thumbs up on the way out. I want you to subscribe. You can subscribe to this channel. It's in the top of the chat. Memberships. You can subscribe. It is free. We are streaming on YouTube right now. We are streaming on TikTok. We're streaming on Instagram. We are streaming on Facebook, iHeart Radio, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. This is the future of the medium. This is where you're going to get it. Either on social media or on YouTube, digital media. And we are on every single one of them. So for the thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are watching me without the backing of a network where I am able to go live, either in my studio or in my own dining room as I am now, where you love me, where you say, Don, we don't want you in a studio. We don't like, your studio is nice and all that, but we want you at home because we feel like we are part of your family. And I love that. So thank you for that. The shows that I do from my living room and my dining room actually have more people tuning in. You said we don't want cable news. That's why we watch you. So I love you for that. Keep supporting us. Thank you for your support. It means the world to us. And guess what? As I say every single day, I love you for watching. Thanks everyone for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your